my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Land Stories Live. I am your host, Dave Deniston of Generation Family Properties, LLC, where our goal is to help hundreds of people just like you own land. And of course, we want to be able to tell your land story. Now, before we get to the featured property today, let's get to my favorite and awesome bad dad joke. And we'll talk about some of my camping adventures. And we're going to answer the question today, what is HipCamp? All right, so a father and a son are hanging out at home on a lazy Sunday. The father looks at his son and asks him, "Son, what's the difference between a piano, a tuna, and glue?" What's the difference between a piano, a tuna, and glue? The son looks at him strangely and says, "What?" The father replies, "You can tune a piano, but you can't piano a tuna." The son stares at him with daggers in his eyes and flippantly says, "Dad, what about the glue?" The father replies, "I knew you'd get stuck there." Oh, the bad dad jokes. We gotta love them, right? All right, so I want to tell you guys today a little bit about some of my camping adventures and some of the things that I've done quite a bit of. I mentioned in the introduction, if you've listened to the audio version, that I am an Eagle Scout, and I can't really tie knots that well, but I have done my fair share of camping. One of my favorite adventures of all time was I grew up in Southern California. And my Boy Scout troop and I went out to the Colorado River, and we canoed for, I think it was 25 miles or so. And it was spread out over a week and maybe a few days. I can't remember exactly, but we would stop each night, hang out, enjoy the stars, eating camp food as we went. My dad was with me. And here you have the massive cliffs kind of coming up around you in parts of the Colorado River, just these amazing rock formations. And of course, you'd be paddling. I was 13, 14 years old. We started out in a little pond that went into the river just to kind of get familiar with it. And one of the experiences I won't forget that I loved camping. Another camping thing that I really enjoyed was we went into the Grand Canyon, into a place called Havasupai. So it was just three of us that went with three adults. And there were two of the guys had their dad, and I didn't have my dad with me, but there was another gentleman that was with that ended up being my replacement dad for that trip. And so we had our backpacks on, we're going into the Grand Canyon. We stayed at a base camp where we took off and had day trips, and definitely had a wonderful time. I never knew in the Grand Canyon how beautiful the water was. There were these waterfalls with just crystal blue water, and you could spend hours and hours in that water, just the perfect temperature. It was about April when we went, so it was about 80 degrees. It wasn't boiling like it can get later in the summer. Lots of trees as well in that part of the Grand Canyon. What happened on the way back, we got a donkey to carry our backpack so we didn't have to deal with it. One of the dads said, "There's no way I'm gonna take this back." So I got a donkey to carry him back. One of the guys, his dad that was with us worked for the Ritz-Carlton as a general manager, and we had this amazing final dinner when we were staying at a hotel before headed out. Beautiful sunset, and we had this dinner of steak and I think it was scalloped potatoes that were made at the Ritz-Carlton of all places. So those are two of my favorite camping adventures that we had. And the reason I bring that up is we're going to talk about today in just a moment something called HipCamp. Now, what happens with a lot of folks, they buy land. They might be out of state. They're planning on maybe going there in the summer. They might be planning on maybe moving there eventually, but they're preparing for the future. It's part of the reason that they buy land. But maybe they're not using it right now. And in this economy we have today, there's so many different ways that you can share in things. And having done this camping thing as a Boy Scout, I love this idea. We have Airbnb for houses. We have Uber for cars. There's probably a bunch of other services that I'm not aware of. But HipCamp came along with the idea of helping to utilize people's land. And it looks a lot like Airbnb if you look at the site. And that's HipCamp, HipCamp. I'm going to share my screen here for a little bit. And so HipCamp looks something like this. I'll go to the main site here. So just like Airbnb, you enter in maybe an area that you want to go camping near. You have the dates that you want to book it. You can look for camping, glamping, or RVs. And so whether you want to go a specific place or you're kind of looking to see maybe who the best hosts are, you want to go beach camping, pet-friendly camping, glamping, RV sites, lake camping, tent camping. You want to specifically go to Yosemite or Big Sur or Joshua Tree or Mount Rainier or Bryce Canyon or visit the Redwoods or anything like that. You can certainly book it here. You notice that I had done a search, and so now there's kind of recently viewed ones that had come up. And what we have is a 5-acre property that's out in Costilla County, Colorado. Beautiful mountain views. Not our featured property of the day today, by the way, but want to just kind of show you where it was at. So you notice here there's a lot of land. It's kind of south of Highway 160. You're close to Mount Blanca. There's mountains to the east, mountains to the northeast. There's mountains out to the west if you go further. And it's a place that people might intend to move eventually, but maybe they're not ready to go there yet. So I was looking to see what's the competition in terms of HipCamp for this this property. And here somewhere, yep, here was what I had looked at to see what could you possibly charge. So the charges range from about $20 a night up to about $38 a night. So not too bad. So if you rented it out, let's say for 14 days and in a month, potentially, that would net you about $300. For some people that are doing monthly payments, that could easily take care of 3 or 4 or 5 months of payments if they're doing payments. Now, the one thing about camping and whatnot is you have to be aware of the Costilla County or whatever county requirements. Now, in this case, for this particular property that's in Costilla County, the county has a rule that is, if you look at us live here, you can only camp or RV 14 days in a 3-month period. So 56 days in a year. You could do more if you have a septic source and water. So if you have septic source and water, you might be able to HipCamp out this thing for a while. But otherwise, you're limited to 14 days every 3 months, which again, that might be a way that you can help do the payments and be able to pay for the land that you have. But do be aware of those county requirements and what you can do. Now, something else they do have are some hosting requirements, which we'll link all of these on the show notes if you guys want to check this out. So the question is, can people just camp on the property? Do you have to have a toilet for it? They say if your land is less than 20 acres, yes, you are required to provide a toilet. Alternatively, if you aren't able to offer a toilet option right away, you can make your listing RV only because RVs are self-contained. If if land is more than 20 acres, you are not required to provide a toilet. So if you get a piece of land that has more than 20 acres, you don't have to have a toilet on it. But if you do have one that's 5 acres, like the one I'm looking at, we'll have to list it as RV only or self-contained. Now let's take a little bit further just to kind of better understand what is the cost to list? What's the catch here? How do they make money, right? They are not doing this for free at HipCamp. So it is completely free to sign up for HipCamp. They say once you start hosting, that HipCamp takes a 10% commission on your earnings, meaning you keep 90%. So here's where they say the 10% commission goes, a 3% processing fee that goes to Stripe, email and social marketing to help you market the property, basically. You also get a $1 million complimentary insurance policy, kind of like an umbrella policy, if you might be familiar with that. And you get some specialists and customer support type stuff. They also say that you earn $100 when you refer a new landowner to HipCamp, and they welcome their first guest. So pretty low cost. Obviously, they are in it to make money. They take 10%, which part of that goes to credit card processing fees. So good stuff there. There's some good information here. Again, I'm going to link a lot of this in the show notes. They have some host standards in terms of what to expect. And nothing I thought was really important there. They have another guide to being successful HipCamp hosting. And as I was reading this, I think some of the challenges of having land and hosting people is that you're not there quite often. If you have land where maybe you're already living on it, doing something like this could be a great way to make some extra dough. And that way you already have a toilet, you have facilities, stuff like that, people could use. So that would make a site really good. Some of the other things that I was thinking about could be, obviously, you don't know what people could do to the property after they use it. So you might have to have it checked out. There might be trash on it. Who knows if you're not there. But hopefully most people are kind. Obviously, like Airbnb, there's reviews of the owners, reviews of the people that are staying, the host versus the guests. And I think it comes down to communication a lot. Like this thing here says, the number one piece of advice I would give to other HipCamp hosts is to put yourself in the place of your guests. Go out of your way in being available to any needs that might come up. For me, I am always 275 miles away. But at the very moment I receive a reservation notification, I message them and let them know of anything in particular that needs mentioning. So it comes down to a lot of communication. So you want to be able to communicate really well, right? And you don't have to be there. Plenty of people get it done well. Some of the things that were talked about might be you want to have a fire pit on your land. You might need to clear part of the land to make sure that there's a good spot for folks. Stuff like that. A lot of this talks about, again, kind of talking to people. So I think if you live on your land, what a great way to make some money. If you own 5 acres, right? You live on a half acre of it. You have 4 other acres that you could have guests to help you pay for your bills and stuff like that. They talked about, again, the fire rings and grills. Of course, having drinking water was a big deal. The toilets and showers can be a big deal, not a have to. They talked about having pets allowed or not. And they said 29% of campers found it to be an important amenity, having pets there. So I think that's a good one to look at. The other thing that they mentioned that could be difficult is signage, right? So where does your land start and end? How do people know how to get there? That could be a difficulty as well. And so certain things like that are definitely all good to know. They have another tips again for new hosts. They have a whole bunch of blog posts. We're going to link to all of this on the show notes. The other thing that I thought was cool that they have available is, let's say you've never actually seen your property that you've bought. You maybe seen photographs that we've taken of it. You could actually hire a HipCamp photographer to go out and take pictures of the area. And normally it would cost $250 to $500. But if you let the photographer stay for a free night, you get pictures for free. So if you wanted to make sure to check out and see how your property looks, maybe if someone stayed there, that would be a great way to do that. So that is what is about with HipCamp, HipCamp. Again, great website to go and utilize your land and maybe make some money off of it even. And just remember to be aware of those county rules that we were talking about. All right, now we've gotten through that educational portion. Wanted to talk a little bit about today about a property in Klamath County, Oregon. It's right here. You can see there's lots of trees on this property, dotted all over the place. A couple of neighbors over to the east. If we look a little further out, you can see there's really not a whole lot of people around in general. Cool thing about this particular property, there's a power line running on this long street that goes up and down here, Warbler Drive. See if I can say that right. If you've looked at some of our properties before, we've had a few properties out here in this area. We had a property over by the Ritter Reservoir. This particular property, pretty easy access. You can get there from Highway 140 fairly directly. You're not real far back out to the east. Let's see how far it is away from the highway here. You're about only 1.5 miles as a crow flies away from the highway. So not too far from the highway that is paved. A lot of the roads that get out here are dirt going out here to this property. You can see here that there's a state park, the Klamath Lakeview Forest State Park. There's BLM land that is all over the place here. The Fremont National Forest is right all over here and over here. You got about 30 minutes from Klamath Falls, so you're not too far away from a major city. You know, if you want to be a little bit away, it's not too bad. You are not too far from Beatty and the Sprague River. We've had some properties out here before. Great fishing out on the Sprague River or out in Klamath Lake and Agency Lake. This property that one of the things I really like about it is that there's actually a little bit of a clearing here. So we were just talking about camping. I think this would be a great property to camp on. As you can see in this photo here, there's some nice grass, lots of trees, lots and lots of trees all around here. Again, more trees. There's the power I was talking about runs right by the property on this long street. See that nice gravel road? The county does a good job taking care of it. Again, more pictures of kind of the grass. You can see how there's a nice clearing right on this property. More kind of grassy and trees here. You wouldn't have to spend a ton of money clearing on the lot at all, because you can see it's pretty grassy, easy to get into. Any other highlights of this property I want to touch on? Let's see. Like I mentioned, it's about 30 minutes from Klamath Falls. 40 minutes, 30 miles, excuse me, from Klamath Falls. The outline of the property, to give you an idea, it's pretty rectangular. So it has longer sides and short on the roadside, but it's a nice rectangle. So it's not real skinny, but it is a rectangle shaped property. This particular property, we're going for about $10,000 discounted cash price, or $12,000 owner financing price if you're looking to buy it on terms. Annual taxes here, only $80 a year. That's it, $80 a year for 2.5 acres with power running right in front of it. And the down payment for this property is $500. That's all you need to do to get started. $500 for the property is a minimum. You could do more than that if you wanted to. And then $180 a month is the minimum monthly payment that we're looking for. So beautiful area out here, close to National Forest, nice grassy parts of the lot, but still with lots of trees nearby and power that runs right by the property. So if you want to check this lot out, definitely check it out in the show notes. It's parcel number R459079 in Klamath County, Oregon. All right, my friends. Well, that about wraps up the episode for today. I want to thank you so much for talking camping with me and learning about HipCamp and ways that you might be able to monetize your property even if you're not there. And we have lots of links in these show notes, including episode 12, where we talked about flip my property, ways to use raw land. And we also have another link for 5 great campfire recipes. So make sure to check those out so that you can have lots of great information. Well, my friends, again, thank you so much for checking in. We do this live around Monday at 11:30 a.m. Central. And if you have a question about land, you have a bad dad joke you want to share, send it to me, contact@genfamproperties.com, or submit them through Facebook. Thanks again so much for tuning into Land Stories with me, your host, Dave Deniston. Make sure to check out all of our properties at www.genfamproperties.com. And if you'd like to speak personally with me, it would be my honor to spend some time with you. You can give me a call directly, 775-234-2058. Again, Dave, 775-234-2058. Thank you so much, my friends. Have a good one. Bye-bye.